Okay, this is the first video I'm making, and I'm calling this The Right to Feel. And I'm giving myself, and I didn't get a timer here, I'm giving myself about 10 minutes. And I've got a lot of topics that I want to not talk about, but just I want to think about, and I'm going to think about it out loud, and I want to share it. Why? Just because there's so much advice online, and I watch a ton of this stuff, the instructional videos, the psychology, the spirituality stuff. I find it all really helpful. I don't consider myself an expert in anything, but I work on myself because I find myself feeling stuck a lot. I get frustrated with myself a lot, and I've had to work through and still work through just anxiety and just having my life unfold and seeing where I really get in my own way, and not being in a place, if I'm being honest, of where I thought I'd be. People tend to measure their life by like their real estate, they're married, or their family, what they've been able to do there. I'm not married. I don't have kids, and I'm an artist who I'm really still finding my way, and I'm finding myself at peace with that. But there's a bunch of things that I've encountered, and I find whenever I see a post of someone sharing like their real experience, I find myself inspired by it. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to just put my experience, my point of view out there, and maybe people find it and it feels comforting, or at least makes you feel like you're not the only one experiencing these things. I don't know. And there's a bunch of topics that I know I want to cover, and I think what I'm going to start off with today is being someone who is an ethnic minority. I'm of South Asian descent. There's all these different words. Like now it's South Asian. It used to say Indian. Then people say brown. And I've really struggled with that. I especially as an artist. And I was looking for a picture, and I found a picture of me, and I was performing this Hindi song from a very popular Bollywood movie for the show I was doing, and I had all this, the get-up as just a bit of a costume for that particular song. And it just, I've been called a whitewashed brown dude a lot in my life, and I hear that, and yeah, I mean, it pisses me off, but it also makes me just think about what our idea of what someone who's brown is supposed to be like. I grew up in an environment that was, I went to a Catholic elementary school, a Catholic high school, so I was, there was, maybe 5 colored people in the whole school. I don't have any crazy racism experiences, because not everyone knew what I was. But then then as I started meeting and seeing more colored people, but especially Indian people, and if I play the guitar, or I like music that is white music, that makes me whitewashed. And it really fucking annoys me that we live in a world where the color of my skin is supposed to determine what kind of music I'm supposed to like, you know. And I like all kinds of music, but you know, if I picked out any individual of my age, who's Indian, and asked them what music they like or what they're typically listening to, it's you know, likely going to be hip hop, or at least it used to be. I think people are starting to open themselves to more music and stuff. But you know, if you liked hip hop and you dressed like that, that's cool. That's brown. But if you listen to rock and roll, you're whitewashed. So whatever. That is what it is, and it's just my own challenge in working through how I see myself. And I don't think of myself as, oh, I'm a brown guy. I feel like sometimes I have to fucking say it, but I don't look at myself or think of myself as that. You know, I think of myself as, I'm just this person who I'm having these experiences, and I know that when I see certain people, I look different. I whether it's my own projection, when I see certain people or I talk to certain people, I feel like I'm different. Even if they're not doing anything, it's just my own like bullshit that gets in the way. But where it gets really real is as an artist, and especially as someone who's as an actor or as a singer I'm a rock and roll singer, and the first thing people say is, oh, you know, well, you're right now, it's great, you know, you're a brown guy, you sing rock and roll, it's great. And I find that really weird. Like, for me, I just like that music, and that's just the music that's been coming out of me. And before it was bad, I was like a bad, you know, I'm a whitewashed brown guy. Now it's like an opportunity that I need to capitalize on. It's weird. It's weird, and it just if I talk to a marketing person, the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, you got like this. Like it's definitely something we gotta push." And I don't know. I was in a meeting just earlier, and I think this might be why I'm inspired to talk about this. It was this woman who's of indigenous descent, and she says whenever she applies for or she talks to a venue about doing music, she's a jazz musician. They're like, "Oh, you're going to do indigenous jazz music? That's awesome. We really want that." And she's like, "No, I do jazz and I'm indigenous. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily just doing indigenous jazz music." And it's just these expectations we have because of our background. But I live here. I'm in Toronto. I live in Toronto. And in my experience of Toronto is, you know, not that different from everyone else's. But then at the same time, I've spent so much time researching my culture, trying to understand whether it's the religion, the language, the culture, the music. I spent a lot of time learning, understanding, and yet because of the choices that I make with what I do and how I put myself out there, I'm kind of seen as this different kind of brown guy, and I'm sure it's changing. I think every generation is becoming more and more open, and these things are these labels or these divisions that we make are starting to dissipate a little bit. but as you can see, like just the fact that I'm talking about this stuff, this is all this bullshit that lives in me because it's something that I've had to experience my whole life. And it affects how I view myself when if I'm interested, or I'm looking, or I'm meeting someone, like I'm meeting a woman, you know. My mind goes to, oh, well, like, what do they think of brown guys? Do they like brown guys? Maybe they don't like brown guys. Maybe they want a white guy. And I have all this programming in me that I can feel, and it's always in my thoughts. And yeah, I guess for me, it's created this challenge with identity in a world where we're so careful to label things and not offend everyone. It's like I just want to be acknowledged for me. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. Whether I'm Indian, you know, like that's going to come through in my experience. I don't know why I feel like I don't know why I have this pressure, or that we put these expectations on people to behave a certain way or do certain things because of who they are. Maybe it's because in communities there is the stereotype is based on a reality of a significant mass behaving within a certain pattern. I don't know, but it's frustrating. I get frustrated, and it makes me often question myself. Especially with what's possible for me in what I want to do, and I guess that's just going to be up to me to overcome. I don't think there's anything more I want to say on that. I don't even know if I'm going to post this, but if I do, and if you're someone who's watching this and it rubs you the wrong way, or you're like, yeah, I get it, or you have a similar experience, please pop it in the comments. For me, it's so interesting, all the shit that kind of affects us in a way that kind of is usually as a challenge, but the more we break down those walls, the more interesting things we find within ourselves, but also I think the connections that we find with other people. I mean, yeah. So maybe I'll maybe I'll end it there.